Good evening to everybody joining us. Hi, good evening. Thanks for that wave, Tyron. Others can turn on your videos and shake as well. Good evening, President Shirley. Good to see you here.
You could hear me?
Yes, sir, in here.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I think we have our panelists here. Is Dr.
Yes,
O'Shea
we
here?
can hear you. I know that you have allowed us to speak. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Okay, awesome. For those of you that know how to change the names on your screen, you can probably put your first name and which country you're from so that we would know who we have in the house this evening. So if you could do that, we have persons from all across our territories. So it would be good to know who's from where. So you could put your first name and the name of your association or the name of your country. All right, so good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on this special evening, the Day of Common Concern. And that's a day where we take very seriously. It is the anniversary of the CARAIFA Foundation, and I'll tell you a little more about that as we go through the session. I want to thank all of you participants for joining us this evening. And we just want to start with a word of prayer. So you can bow your heads with me. Those of you who, want to turn on your videos for a bit, you can do so that we can see you. Thanks for those who changed the name on their screens. Thank you so much. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with grateful hearts as we gather for this session, this panel discussion, united by a shared purpose and commitment to those in need. Father, we ask for your blessings upon everyone here and thank you for the opportunity to make a difference. Lord, we lift up those living with kidney disease and other chronic illnesses. We pray for your strength to uphold them and your peace to comfort them, your healing hand to surround them. Dear Father, grant them resilience through the difficult days and hope in the face of challenges. Guide their caregivers, families, and medical teams with wisdom, compassion, that they may bring relief, encouragement, and healing. Dear God, we also ask that you bless the work of the CARAIFA Foundation and all who support our mission of care and compassion. May our efforts bring light and hope to many lives, and may our hearts be open to continue supporting this cause. Let your actions be a reflection of your love, and may this session inspire us all to serve with purpose. Father, these things we ask in your Son's name, for his sake, amen. All right, so good evening to everyone. Indeed, it's a pleasure to have all of you here today with us. I want to say special greetings to the board of CARAIFA. We have our president, Hugh Meredith. He is there that we can see him online. Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Yes, good evening. And we also have, I cannot see everyone this evening, but we have President Hugh Meredith, our Vice President. We have Gerald Cruikshank, our IPP, Alicia Burt, our Secretary General, and I must apologize on behalf of our Secretary General this evening. There was a medical emergency, so she had to rush out. But Marcel Fenton, I believe most of you know, that's our Secretary General, our Education Chair, Nathaniel Wilcher, our Directors, Otis Hamilton, and our Director of, he's our RCC, Regional Congress Director, and Denton, he is our PR. So he took care of the flyers, made sure they were ready and so on for this session this evening, Denton Atkins. So indeed, it's a pleasure to have all of the exec team for CARAIFA. And of course, all of you are from different territories, and CARAIFA, we basically is the umbrella for 11 territories at this point in time. And when I call the names, I just want you to put the thumbs up, put the different emojis, or you can turn on your videos and wave, whatever you want to do, just so that we can see that you're here this evening. I see President Hugh waving, so he's from Jamaica. Everybody here from Jamaica, you can wave for us. Trinidad and Tobago, say hello. Wave your hands at us. Everybody from Barbados, say hi. Everybody from Guyana. Do we have anybody from Guyana here this evening? Yes, from Cayman Islands. Yes, Dr. Persaud. Indeed, you are. Everybody from Antigua. Yes, please. From Dominica. St. Lucia. Anybody from Belize? Anybody from Grenada? And St. Vincent. Indeed, it's a pleasure to have you here this evening. We want to especially thank our panelists for being here. We have Dr. Margaret O'Shea. Say hi, Dr. O'Shea. Dr. Kishore Persaud. Dr. Keniel Chrysostom. And Dr. Hassina Mohammed. And there are our panelists for this evening, which you will hear from a bit later in the program. At this time, I'm going to ask our president, the president of CARAIFA, Hugh Meredith, to come and give his remarks and give you a very special welcome.
Thank you very much, Foundation Chair Dion. I am very happy to be here, and I'm very happy that our panelists would have taken the time from their busy schedule to be with us this evening, to lend their support and to have meaningful discussion around a subject that has really brought many tears to many people across the world, and in particular, our Caribbean countries. Now, this month, we celebrate today our Day of Common Concern, and it is a day where we dedicate specially to pay homage or to give support to the Kidney Foundation throughout the Caribbean. Now, we in the Caribbean, we would have been disadvantaged in so many different ways based on the fact that we are not a first world country, and the difficulties that surround the management of kidney disease is something that we take very seriously. And I'm sure our doctors on panel, who you would have named, I will not try to pronounce some of those names. I'm sure they will bring to us many different aspects of this very serious disease, and also to assist us in giving information to our clients really in how they can also help themselves in managing kidney disease. Now, I read something in one of the newspapers across the Caribbean, and based on what I'm reading or what I've read, it suggests to me that a weekly cost in the management of kidney disease can run you up to $600-700 US. And that's a serious cost. And so we as insurance financial advisors who are very close to people and would have the necessary tools to offer them, to assist them in dealing with the financial crisis that they will come up on if it's a kidney disease, or if they are diagnosed with kidney disease. We are at the forefront of every single thing that should drive the awareness. And I'm extremely happy this evening that we have so many on our panel, and also we have a lot of members on this Zoom platform this evening who will hear, learn more, and ask questions. Now, I must be very careful not to leave out anyone, so I will say to the board of CARAIFA, welcome to every single board member, and I will also extend welcome to those who we know are challenged in this area of kidney disease who are joining us this evening from across the Caribbean. We welcome you, and we hope that when you leave here this evening, you will learn much more about the aspect of kidney disease and how you can treat and manage it. But most importantly, it is for us financial advisors who have to face with individuals each day to assist them and to advise where possible, because many people are still not aware of how devastating this disease can be. So I'm extremely happy that we are doing this. Congratulations to you and your team, Foundation Chair Dion. It is something that I believe will continue and should continue for many, many years. Thank you very much, and welcome to everyone.
Indeed. Thank you for that warm welcome, President Hugh. And I do concur with every single word that you share with us. Thank you so very much. I am seeing Janice Mullins Sargent you have your hand raised. Do you have a question for us? Janice Mullins Sargent. I am not sure if that is an error. Okay. All right. So yes, so we were welcome. I'm sure all of you are feeling welcome this evening, and welcome to all of you within our Zoom room. At this time, I'm seeing 107 participants, and I also want to thank those that are joining us on our Facebook page, as well as those joining through YouTube. So good evening to everyone. And as I shared earlier, today is the day of common concern. And today, well, let me share this with you. The CARAIFA Foundation was established in 2003 as an extension of the Caribbean Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors' commitment to giving back to the community. We created the vision of uniting the insurance and financial sectors to make a positive social impact. The foundation was born out of a desire to support causes that improve lives across the Caribbean. For over 20 years, today we are actually celebrating the 21st year of the CARAIFA Foundation. It has championed initiatives in healthcare, education, and social welfare, creating programs that address urgent needs and uplift vulnerable individuals and families. The foundation has been particularly active in supporting patients with kidney disease, offering financial aid and resources to those undergoing dialysis and transplant procedures. Your donations over the years enable the CARAIFA Foundation to continue its impactful work, providing hope and vital assistance where it is needed most. And throughout the evening, in this session, we want to invite you to join our mission by pledging your support to help us bring life-changing aid to our Caribbean communities. Earlier this year, we were able to make donations or give financial aid to 3 persons living with kidney disease. And at this time, we're going to hear a special thank you from them. So please put your hands together for these 3 beautiful persons.
Hi, good day. I would like to thank the people of CARAIFA for that beautiful gift they give us. And it goes a long way, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much in Jesus' name. Thanks.
On behalf of myself and the Dominica Dialysis Association, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Brandon Hillier and the CARAIFA Association for giving me this presentation. It was a great gesture and it took me a very long way. Thank you again.
Good afternoon. I'm Olivia Valmont. I'm a dialysis patient, and I would like to say thank you very much to CARAIFA for the gift that they give to us. It was very helpful to me. I used some to buy my medication and to pay my transportation. Thank you very much. Do come again.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we heard from those persons in Dominica where we had our Congress earlier this year in the month of May, and we were able, because of the gifts that you would have given throughout last year, we were able to make these contributions to these 3 persons, and you would have heard from them, and they shared their gratitude to you. So thank you so much for giving into the CARAIFA Foundation. Because of you, we were able to do this. At this time, I want to share with you a testimony from a person who was actually living with kidney disease. And as insurance advisors, on a daily basis, we go out there and we share the word, the awareness of things that can happen to us, the risks that we take. We help people to plan for financial risk. And because of an advisor's planning, we were able to assist some person who had a challenge with kidney failure, and she was able to benefit through the products that we offer. So this evening, we're going to hear from Speaker Joanne Archie, and we're going to hear how what we do as financial advisors or insurance agents were able to help her.
I am a retired police officer. I have been in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for 40 years, and I have just retired, and I'm now the head of the Corporate Communications Department of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Tell us about the circumstances that caused you to buy insurance.
One of the reasons was that the type of job that I did, high-risk job, and I was acutely aware of a number of illnesses that prevailed with police officers, the high-risk job that they do. And as such, I decided that not that I wanted to get sick, but to prepare myself in the event that any one of those illnesses had befallen me.
Okay, great. And tell us about the events that came about that caused you to make a claim on that insurance that you bought.
I was, of course, again, going back to the risk involved in the type of job that I did, not eating on time, and I had a serious issue with acid reflux. That's as a result of my meals not eating on time, and then you grab anything you get at the time. And I had that situation for a few years, not really serious. However, in 2019, I began to get some stomach symptoms that caused me to seek medical attention, and I had an endoscopy done when they discovered a tumor in my duodenum.
How did the policy respond to that particular illness in helping you get the treatment that you needed, access to the best care?
Well, actually, the treatment, I am still actually taking that treatment, although it's follow-up treatment, but the policy assisted me tremendously because it was a huge financial cost. Because when I first discovered it, I was told that I needed to do an endoscopic ultrasound, and it was not being done in Trinidad and Tobago, nor anywhere in the Caribbean. So I went to the US. I had to go to the US. I had to pay my way to go to the US and have it done. And that cost a huge sum. The policy, it was like, you know, I mean, nobody wants to get sick, but it was like a dream come true when I put in my claim and I was told that it was honored. So it made my life easier, even though it was a critical illness. But when I say easier, that stress, not knowing where your funding would come from. We do have a medical plan in the TTPS, but they were not covering some of my expenses. So this made, when I was told, when I got that call and I was told that your claim had been honored and you can collect your check. I mean, I smiled and of course, it offset a lot of my costs, you know, involved with the disease. And that I still had something remaining in the event I had follow-up treatment to do.
Which you now have, as
yes.
you indicated. You know, how has this illness and the experience impacted your family and your friends?
Well, that was a blow for my family because they normally know me vibrant. As you see, I ran in here. And it really my family did not take it well. And I told them I was okay, yes, but I just wanted to ensure that they were strong and they did support me. Because one of their issues were they know how much money involved in treatment of a disease of this nature. So that was another concern for them. But I gave them the assurance that everything was okay. And I must mention, though, my interaction with the staff, they were so helpful. So really the journey, unfortunately, not everybody can say that, but the journey for me, not that I would want to go back through that, yes, but it was a pleasant experience.
All right. You got assistance from your advisor with the processing the claim and things like that in terms of the journey with the company and so on?
Oh,
yes?
Certainly, yes. Yes. Of course I did. And as I mentioned before, that was so reassuring, the whole process. I mean, having to repeat symptoms and you know, that part wasn't pleasant, but you know that there's a process in everything.
What sort of advice generally would you give to your colleagues, your friends, members of your family, and persons you interact with because of the experience that you've gone through? What sort of advice?
Well, incidentally and unfortunately, a lot of my colleagues have been diagnosed as well with cancer. Some of them just went into retirement. So that when I saw this happening, I would speak to them, even the serving ones, seeing that I'm still in the system, albeit not as a police officer, but I would speak to them to ensure that they have proper coverage. Because a part of the whole healing system is ensuring that they are not susceptible to stress. And what will bring on stress is the financial cost involved in managing these type of illnesses. Because in fact, one of them recently had a food sale to raise funds to offset the medical expenses. And when I asked if he had insurance, he did not. Whilst he had other insurances, he did not have a critical illness. So even his relatives, the wife and children, adult children, I advise them that they should.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hassina, for sharing with us.
All right, we want to thank Miss Joanne Archie for sharing that beautiful testimony with us. And you know, sometimes we take the financial planning for granted. Perhaps we may say, you know, this cannot happen to us, you know, but it can, and you can take that advice from her, reach out to an advisor near you to talk about a critical illness plan, all right? And sometimes we take these little symptoms. So many of us are here complaining for acid reflux. Us as insurance advisors, sometimes we skip meals trying to rush from one place to another to get around to do our business. But I want to encourage you, to take your health seriously, to eat on time, drink your water, and we will get some more advice from the doctors later in the panel discussion. But we want to make sure that we put some ease on our kidneys and stay healthy. All right. At this time, we're going to hear another testimony. And this one saddens my heart. It's from Kevon Lewis. He was an insurance advisor in Trinidad. He passed away recently, but he was able to share his experience with us before he left. So we pray that, he will continue to rest in peace, but we'll hear from him at this time.
Good day, I'm Kevin Lewis. I work out at the Winston Williams Agency for the Spain branch. That was a number of years ago, but I clearly remember exactly what happened. Well, at the time, he was the agent who I spoke to, and, see, coming and talking to everybody. I think he had now started to work with the company, and he was telling everybody, well, this is what he could do for you. And I was young, I was 18, and now turned 18. And, obviously, to pay $80-something or $90 was a lot of money for me then. And he spoke to me a day, it was a Sunday. He said, yes, I want to talk to you today. And he stood down and he spoke to me in the dine, and he explained to me what is really insurance about. And it sounded to me so. And to be honest, I wanted to support you back then and to be part of whatever you was doing. So that would really make me buy it.
Fast forward 24 years. How did the policy come through for you?
Well, at the point in time, I couldn't even remember that I had critical illness. But I continued to pay for it. And as a result of that, I was able to make a claim, and it was able to support the bills that keep coming.
Right. How much money do you think you spent so far? You've spent so far in dealing with this critical illness, which I understand is renal failure, right?
Yes, it is renal failure.
How much money do you think you spent so far, since you've had this illness?
Well, combined with the company insurance, about $375,000. Okay. One treatment alone per session is like $1,500, and I did it 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday.
3 times a week?
Yeah, for the month. 3 times a week, and by 4 for the month.
How has being able to pay for this treatment privately affected your ability to function, to work, and so on?
Well, but it has affected me tremendously in terms like it just has you stagnant, you can't do anything. Because the days that I do dialysis, I'm sick, I can't move, vomiting, nausea, everything that comes with, it's really tough.
Right. So effectively, out of the week, so it's really about 3 days that you have treatment, and give or take about 3 days that you have that you actually work.
Yeah, 2 days.
The support that you've gotten from your advisor. Talk to me about the support that you've gotten from your advisor, who would have sold you that policy over those years.
One thing he told me, he said, think about if something happened, you really need the money. That's a really years ago. He told me, to tell me that, but I always remember that. Pay your insurance. And I really took what it is he said and continued to pay it. Even in down times, I still try and make the effort and pay, because now, if it was different, I would have paid for the year, because insurance is really, really important, especially when you have it. You have to really try and maintain it, because when something happens, you say, I could have afforded more, and you didn't do that.
Having had a critical illness, how has that affected the work that you do in trying to sensitize people out there?
Well, now, what I do is explain my situation to them, make it, let them understand. When people hear exactly what you're going through, especially friends and family, they just say, well, oh, that could happen to me, and they're more understanding in terms like, not this, you see, when you tell your story, they understand because you experience it. It's not like you're telling somebody's story. And when you tell them about the bills, especially, they get more sensitized in terms like, oh, that is what he's going through, and people, it's not a nice feeling. So when you explain to people exactly what's going on and what is really the disease or the illness is about, they understand. Not everybody, but most people.
So it has become easier, you think, to reach people to tell them
Yeah, definitely, because you live in it and so you could tell it. If you didn't know what happened and you tell it, like if it's happened to somebody, you could only explain. But if something happened to you, they would understand more because you telling your story.
What kind of advice would you give to them today?
Well, what I would tell them, my manager said from the beginning, you can't sell something and you don't have it yourself. So I just try for everybody to understand at least, because when you come into work, I mightn't die from kidney failure, but I could come out the road and a car could lick me down and I could die. So everybody should be covered in terms of some sort. You can't be promoting something and don't have it. And having a critical illness, I advise my fellow agents and them to just do something small, just start. You understand? Because not until something happens, you just want to hold your head and say, oh God, I should and open, So these are things, I try to explain to them.
Great. Thank you very much, Kevon.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard from one of our own, Kevon, and let's have a brief moment of silence for our beloved advisor at this point in time. Thank you. Kevon, may your soul continue to rest in peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you. Thanks those that came in while we were started for joining us here on our panel discussion. This evening, our theme is kidney disease, its challenges, and its management. And we are from the CARAIFA Foundation hosting this panel discussion this evening. And I want to remind you that through the evening, that you can make your pledges towards the work of the foundation. You would have heard Kevon there mentioning just now that he had to go to dialysis 3 times per week and over $300,000 in bills that he had to pay. So through you donating towards the foundation, it can help us to help persons that are in need. And of course, I want all of you that are here this evening without critical illness coverage to reach out to an advisor near you in one of the territories. I would have mentioned the territories earlier. I saw someone in the chat from St. Kitts and Nevis. So welcome to all of you under the umbrella of CARAIFA, and welcome to all others. All of you are welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening. And we want to get right into the panel discussion this evening. We have some doctors who would have given up their time, their energy to prepare the presentation for you this evening. And we want to hear from them. You'll get your opportunity to ask questions after the panelists or these doctors would have shared their presentation. So while they're sharing, you can make your notes and you will have your opportunity to ask the questions afterwards. Now, I want you to make sure that you keep your microphones muted so that there will be no disturbances while we get through the panel discussion. As I said, our theme this evening is kidney disease, its challenges, and management. And the first panelist we have for this evening is Dr. Margaret O'Shea. And Dr. O'Shea is from Barbados. She's going to be speaking to us about kidney disease, its management, kidney disease and its management in Barbados. She's going to zero in Barbados, and Dr. O'Shea will also make, during this time, make a presentation on the Tribute to Life program. Just let me give you a little history on Dr. O'Shea before she comes on. Dr. Margaret O'Shea is a lecturer in surgery in the Faculty of Medical Sciences, University of the West Indies, Cayfield campus, an associate consultant general and renal transplant surgeon at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Barbados. Dr. O'Shea graduated from the University of the West Indies with a Doctor of Medicine in General Surgery in 2006. In 2008, Dr. O'Shea completed fellowship training in renal transplantation at the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Brisbane, Australia. She returned to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Barbados in 2009 and was promoted to Consultant General and Renal Transplant Surgeon. Dr. O'Shea served as head of the Department of Surgery at QEH Barbados between 2013 to 2016 before joining the UWI as a lecturer in surgery. She is the Caribbean coordinator for the Commonwealth Tribute to the Life Project and is passionate about the development of ethical organ and tissue donation and transplantation in the Caribbean region. Dr. O'Shea serves as an associate editor of the Journal of the Caribbean Colleges of Surgeons. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Margaret O'Shea.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that welcome. So yes, thank you. Mr. Haynes, who's the president of the Kidney Association, asked me to speak about my role and also with the Commonwealth Tribute to Life program that was launched in 2022. So I'll just share my screen. You're seeing the screen?
Yes, we can see their screen.
Okay, great. So the Commonwealth Tribute to Life project was started in 2022. I was fully the regional coordinator, but since last year, I've asked Dr. Hassina Mohammed, who's on the call, to join me as a co-regional coordinator because of the volume of work and also with my own work here in Barbados. So thank you for inviting me to speak. Okay, so as I said, it was launched the 14th of March, 2022. The project is the mandate of the project was to champion three concepts: the value of organ donation and transplantation in saving and transforming lives, the need to ensure safe and ethical practices, and the benefits that can be shared by all Commonwealth nations through learning and sharing solutions with each other. With the common challenges faced. This project is really the brainchild of Dr. Satyaj Sharma, and he is currently the chair of the custodial board, and also in charge of the activities is Dr. Dale Gardner, who is the associate medical director of the NHS Blood and Transplant Organization, and the project manager is Mr. Keelan Jones. This is a picture of Dr. Sharma at the launch of the project. And what Dr. Sharma did was he basically, I got introduced to him through my work with Transplant Links Charity. And he basically reached out to me to be initially first the coordinator for Barbados to join this project, in which he was hoping to recruit all of the Commonwealth nations. And then he asked me for contacts with all of the islands that represent Barbados, the Commonwealth in the region. So I gave him the contacts that I knew, and he reached out to each of these persons individually. It was a lot of work, and managed to get signatories to the memorandum of understanding with each of the Caribbean Commonwealth countries, which is going to last 5 years. So in Antigua, we have Dr. Ian Thomas. In the Bahamas, Vantara Taylor. In Belize, we have Byron Simmons. In Dominica, Dr. Pearl James. And in Grenada, Dr. Robbie Yarwood. Dr. Kishore Persaud, who's on the call for Guyana. Dr. Siebo for Jamaica. And in St. Kitts, we have Dr. Naima Hazel. St. Lucia, Dr. Charlie Greenidge. And Dr. Brown Caesar in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And Dr. Mohammed, as I mentioned just now. So each of these persons have signed on to the MOU with the Tribute to Life project to champion these concepts which I mentioned. So in March of 2022, we had a virtual launch. And there we have Dr. Gardner, who basically represented the European countries who are part of the Commonwealth, Cyprus, Malta, and the United Kingdom. We also had Dr. David Thompson, who represents Africa, the African nations, and these are the nations that have signed on from the African continent. Not all of the Commonwealth nations have signed on, but quite a good majority. And Dr. Shinal Shroff from India, he also is the regional coordinator for Asia, and pretty much all of the countries in Asia have signed on who are part of the Commonwealth. And then we have Ms. Lucinda Barry. And these are the countries in the Pacific who are part of the Commonwealth that have signed on to the project. Initially, Belize and Guyana were part of the Americas, but we have since changed that. And now they're under the umbrella of the Caribbean nations. I also gave representation to the Caribbean nations at that virtual launch in March. And basically highlighting our population and the transplant activity that we have in the Caribbean starting since 1971 in Jamaica, and highlighting those countries that are involved in transplantation in the region. Trinidad and Tobago, you will hear from Dr. Mohammed shortly, having the largest program. Jamaica, kidney and liver transplantation occurring. Antigua and Barbuda, kidney. And also Guyana and Barbados, kidney transplantation occurring. And some of the countries represented also report to the global advisory, WHO, on donation and transplantation. So after the virtual launch, we went on to have a in-person launch, which was a major launch in time with the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. And this was in July of 2022. And this was done in Wolverhampton. And here we see they have a nice statue here highlighting the gift of life that transplant gives. And this was me at the launch in July with other members of the committee. And this is Baroness Finlay, who is the patron. The project has 19 supporting organizations, and they have 44 countries that have signed on. And as I showed you, the Caribbean is well represented. These are the Caribbean supporting organizations, the Caribbean College of Surgeons, and the recently launched Caribbean Donation and Transplantation Society. What occurred initially, and we plan to continue, or many webinars discussing donation, transplantation, promotion, and tissue transplantation as well. This was from all across the region, and we were happy to take part in these webinars. Myself, Dr. Jarwan. We took part in the webinars. We also chaired webinars as well. One on starting a sustainable transplant program, one on living kidney donation. We also had representatives from Dr. Mohammed on the call and Dr. Persaud chairing meetings as well about transplant immunology laboratories, transplant registries. There is a website that has all of these webinars are available to anyone who wants to learn about these topics, also including preventing unethical transplantation. These are all on the website of the project, sharing a lot of knowledge, raising a lot of awareness about the importance of transplantation. So since the launch, there has been another meeting in India this year. I was not able to attend, unfortunately, of the Commonwealth countries, again, discussing transplantation. And there is a plan, hopefully, for another conference in 2026. Hopefully, again, surrounding either the Commonwealth Games or some other conference. And also planning to have bi-monthly webinars. And what we really want to do is expand the implementation groups for transplantation within the regions. Now, you're seeing that not every country has a transplantation program, but obviously we want to still involve countries with transplant. If you don't have a program in your country, you can still send patients maybe to another country. But the whole idea is for the region to come together as a community to help each other. And I know that St. Kitts is also keen to start a program as well. So the whole mandate is to continue the conversation, continue the discussion, and continue to raise awareness around the importance of transplantation and donation. So that's it for me. These are I leave you with the sites, the website here that you can go to, and also the YouTube channel for the project to learn a lot more about what we're doing, and we hope to continue to do to really make this a sustainable project. I thank you.
The pleasure is certainly ours, Dr. O'Shea. Thanks for sharing that information with us on the Tribute to Life program. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next we will hear from Dr. Hassina Mohammed, and she'll be sharing kidney disease, its challenges, and management in Trinidad. And I want to especially thank Dr. Hassina for coming on this evening. For those that don't know, it's a holiday in Trinidad and Tobago. So she made a sacrifice to be here this evening. She had to be with her family, but she asked them for a little excuse to come and share with us this evening. All right. So Dr. Mohammed obtained a BSc and MBBS from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, in 2008 and 2010, respectively. Received her master in donation and transplantation of organs, tissues, and cells, and postgraduate diploma in organ transplantation from the University of Barcelona in 2017. She currently works at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex as an acting registrar in anesthesia, intensive care, and a transplant procurement manager associated with the National Organ Transplant Unit, NOTU. She has been in the field of anesthesia, intensive care for more than 10 years and in the transplant since 2014. She is the Trinidad and Tobago representative on the International Advisory Panel for the Commonwealth Tribute to Life Project Memorandum of Understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Hassina Mohammed.
Hi, good night. Thank you so much for having me. Let me share my screen for you guys. It looks like a lot of slides. but I love pictures, so pictures say a lot. So we'll go through this. It wouldn't be very long. Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me here today. So this is my topic. My topic is Trinidad and Tobago's perspective on kidney disease. So this is just an overview of what I'm going to discuss. This is my references. It's basically, I'm going to use information from the World Health Organization, Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, as well as two studies that were recently done. Well, recent is relative. One was published in 2023, and the other one was published in 2018, I believe. So the status of kidney disease in Trinidad and Tobago, I have no update on that. And unfortunately, the reason for that is because we do not have a national renal registry. So I cannot give you details on how many people have kidney disease. However, we have one prominent nephrologist who has stated that approximately 1 in 4 adults have kidney disease of some stage or the other. There are 5 stages of kidney disease, and it ranges and tells you basically how much the kidney functions. Okay, so at some point in time, 1 in 4 adults are going to have kidney disease, or at least one of these stages. Now, I think that's a bit of an underestimation, just because we have so many risk factors for having kidney disease in Trinidad. We use a lot of over-the-counter drugs, we do a lot of smoking, we use a lot of alcohol, and then we have the other comorbidities such as diabetes and hypertension, as well as the rising incidence of obesity in the country. So a lot of that will contribute to kidney disease. But like I said, I can't tell you how many people have kidney disease. And the reason for that is because we don't have a registry. Another reason would be that a lot of them are undiagnosed, as in they were never told that they have kidney disease. And the reason for that would be is at the earliest stages, you don't have any symptoms at all. So you don't know that you need to get checked out until you're tired, your feet start to swell, you know, you start to get short of breath, you can't lie flat. And when that happens, you're actually at a very advanced stage of kidney disease. And at that point, you're almost close to dialysis. So this is why I really can't update on kidney disease status in Trinidad and Tobago. But we have a fair idea that it's a significant portion of the population. So renal replacement therapy, which is basically the management of kidney disease. So chronic kidney disease can be managed via dialysis, which is either hemodialysis, peritoneal dialysis, or via transplant. And transplant has been shown to be a better option compared to dialysis. So dialysis in Trinidad and Tobago, we have 3 public hospitals that do peritoneal dialysis, and peritoneal dialysis is the one that you have the tube in the tummy and you kind of filter the blood through that. And then there's hemodialysis, where you have, we have centers in Trinidad as well. So even though we do not have a renal registry, we have an administration of special health care programs. And that has estimated that as of May 2018, 1,187 patients were receiving some form of renal replacement therapy. And when we say receiving some form of renal replacement therapy, we generally mean hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis. So that puts our prevalence rate at 875 per million population, which is significantly high compared to other countries. Mexico has a little lower, America has lower. Of course, they are a little bit more developed than us, some regions of Mexico. But we are still a little better than some of the Asian countries, such as Taiwan, which actually have numbers in the 2000s. All right. over a 2-year period, 265 new persons underwent renal replacement therapy. And this information was taken from one of the studies that I previously mentioned. In 2016, we had 153 new persons on dialysis. And in 2017, we had 112 new persons on dialysis. So that gave us an incident rate of 306 and 224 per million population for approximately 2016 and 2017, with an associated mortality, which is the risk of death, at 32% and 32.1%. And that actually is very, 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 very high. So this is a little bit more information on the demographics. And this is important because these are the patients you want to look out for. So the age group in patients, so in 2016, the age group that had required some form of therapy was between 50 to 59, and in 2017, 60 to 69. Males, predominant in both years. Ethnicity, it was more common in the Afro-Trinidadian population than the other population. Now, if you look at the comorbidities, you would see that diabetes and hypertension, diabetes or hypertension, play a significant role in the development of kidney disease and having a risk of having to have dialysis. And it's even worse when it's actually combined, and it's significantly worse when it's combined, okay? Outcome. Now, I think this is one of my scariest slides because you realize in 2016, you had a lot of people who had kidney disease and became dialysis dependent. Then you look at those who died within 3 months. And then you look at those who died after 3 months. Now, the ones who died after 3 months were significantly larger than those that died within 3 months. However, if you look at 2017, it becomes a little bit scary because now you have a lot more people dying within 3 months compared to 2016, and less people dying after 3 months in 2017. So it's really tricky. But then you have these persons who recover as well within 3 months of dialysis, and then you have those that recover after 3 months of dialysis, and you realize that in 2017 the number of those who actually recover is less. So kidney disease, because they're coming and presenting to the hospital at such an advanced stage, at that point, it really is irreversible or non-manageable, and they just end up on dialysis, and that is a possibility. So what did this study show? It concluded that Trinidad and Tobago had one of the highest incidence of patients initiating renal replacement therapy, and we had one of the higher mortality rates. And that doesn't say a lot for us, especially since we have a small population of 1.4 million compared to worldwide population. Now, kidney disease also has an economic burden, and it's estimated that 12.9 million was allocated for dialysis patients in the fiscal year 2017. Now, patients have to put money, they get a specific amount of treatment sessions, and outside of that, they actually have to pay out of pocket for the additional ones. Sometimes the government does pay for dialysis in the private sector if it's not available to patients within the public sector, but they pay for a specific number and you still have to pay out of pocket for the additional ones that you require. So if you require dialysis for 3 times a week, maybe there might be 1 or 2 weeks where you only get twice a week and you have to pay for the extra session in the other 2 weeks. All right. Private dialysis care in Trinidad and Tobago costs between $1,000 to $1,500 per treatment session, and this is in TT dollars. I apologize, I didn't convert it to US. And most patients require about 15 sessions per month. So they pay about 12 to 22, which is about maybe, let me divide it, about $2,000 US per month for dialysis in a private center. Now, kidney disease and deaths. According to the WHO data published in 2020, deaths reached 5.1% of the total deaths were kidney deaths. And the adjusted age death rate is to 24.69 per 100,000 of the population. And we were ranked 76 in the world. I forgot to Google how many countries it had in the world to see how bad that was, but I think that's pretty bad. So continuing with causes of death in Trinidad and Tobago, this is 2017 data. It compared 2007 and 2017, and you'll realize in the 2007 column that chronic kidney disease was actually our sixth leading cause of death. And in 2017, it jumped to number 4. Small jump, 6 to 4, not too bad. But when you look at the last column, which is the percentage change between the years, you'll realize that chronic kidney disease had the highest jump and increase of 38.5%. So 6 to 4 doesn't sound too bad, but when you look at it as 38.5% increase in cause of death secondary to chronic kidney disease, that's a problem. Now, this is 2019 data, and it compares 2009 and 2019. It's still in the 4th place, but you realize that the increase is still there. It's still rising, and it had an increase in 12% between 2009 and 2019. Now, what burden is it on the population? This is disability adjusted life years. It's about maybe 27% increase. Now, to transplantation, you can either have a living donor or deceased donor. Living donors they're the ones who can donate part of or one of their organs. They cannot donate anything that is life-saving for them, that they require and it's essential. So things like the heart, the whole lung, the cornea, the whole pancreas, they can't donate those things. Neither can they donate their tissues and their tissues. However, when they have passed away, they can donate all those things that they were not able to donate before. Now, this is some statistics about Trinidad and Tobago Transplant Program. We have a living and deceased donor program. Our living program though predominates at 78.4%. Now we do transplant within the public sector as well as the private sector. It is very minimum in the private sector, but mainly done in the public sector. I will not be focusing on the private sector at this point in time. So this compares our living versus deceased, and you realize that 2014 was one of our best years where we had 10 transplants each in both living and deceased. For 2024, I apologize, we have not done that bad. We've done 9 for the year already, but our deceased donor program has been on hold as we are currently redoing our lung. This is just another figure of showing the deceased donors per year. So like I said, 2014, we had 10 transplants. So that means we had 5 deceased donors. Now, this is our demographic population. Now, our deceased donor, the majority of them are males between 60 to 30, Afro-Trinidadian, who either had blunt force trauma or had a spontaneous stroke. Okay, a lot of them are forensics cases, and that's because they tend to be road traffic accidents. They tend to be MVAs, tend to be gunshot wounds, the blunt force trauma. They're also forensic cases. So we tend to have a lot of forensics cases. Now, organizations that promote donation, I'm going to speak about in Trinidad. So we have the Caribbean Donation and Transplant Society, which was newly launched late last year. The Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association, and that association has partnered last year with the CDTS to launch it, and they have been very relevant in allowing to have regular meetings where we try to educate the healthcare professionals about donation and transplantation. The Society of Surgeons, I have very proactive surgeons, which I love, and they tend to spread the word as well. The National Organ Donor Program is done by the National Organ Transplant Unit, and they also promote donation. They have recently started a program where they go to the different departments in the hospital. And we have 2 patient advocate groups. So there's kidney care advocates, and they advocate for proper dialysis for our renal patients, as well as proper kidney care for our patients. And then we have the Kidney Recipient Support Group of Trinidad and Tobago, and they also advocate for renal care as well as for transplant. Now, hurdles and obstacles to donation and transplantation. This is a study that was done in 2017 for my thesis for my master's, and it shows that we do have a significant percentage of the population that actually agrees with organ donation. Now, what the hurdles are that if you look at this is public awareness. 56% were unaware that we did transplant in Trinidad, and this is 2017. So I'm hoping to do another study in Trinidad now, and maybe extend it to the other Caribbean islands. I know they're out there, so I just want to kind of throw it out one time. So a lot of the persons did not know that we had a transplant program, and that's one of the hurdles that we have. A lot of them would agree to donate because they wanted to help others. And these are the reasons why there are refusals to become deceased donors. And it's because the main one is because they've never thought about it. And that's a population that we can sway, not sway really, but convince that transplant is a good thing and it can save lives. If you've never thought about it, it doesn't necessarily mean you say no. It means that given a little bit more information, you should make a decision. All right, now the Caribbean Donation and Transplant Society, this is my baby. And the idea came about after our conferences. Like I said, we've hosted 3 Caribbean Donation and Transplant Summits. And after the second one, it was kind of formalized that we would try to create a society. We have the CARAIFA, we have West Indian Cricket, and we all love to collaborate. So why not have a Caribbean society, transplant society? And that was the idea behind this. So it finally was registered in 2013, and it's in the process of getting together with the website. So our mission is to facilitate quality donation and transplantation for the people of the Caribbean. We want to advocate for development of an organ sharing network to assist the development of policies for equitable distribution of organs and tissues in the Caribbean, to hold scientific meetings for the members, and to collaborate with other transplant and medical organizations internationally. This is the logo. You would have seen it at some point as well through my presentation. The website still under development, and that is it. Thank you very much. That was not more than 15 minutes.
You were great on time, Dr. Hassina. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Yes, please. That's some very interesting information. We see Trinidad is high on that list. So we got to really, raise the awareness and get persons to be taking on this seriously. So thanks for sharing on how to help us manage the challenges that persons are facing with kidney failure. All right, next up, we have Dr. Kishore Persaud. And Dr. Kishore is the Assistant Professor, School of Medicine, Fellowship in the Multi-Organ Transplant and Vascular Access 2015. He is the postgraduate. He has a postgraduate diploma in surgery from the University of Guyana in 2010. Dr. Kishore has a bachelor's in medicine, bachelor's in surgery degree from the University of Guyana 2005. And he has a degree in chemistry from the University of Guyana in 2000. And his area of specialty is vascular surgery. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Kishore Persaud. And this evening, he's speaking on kidney disease, its challenges and management in Guyana. Welcome, Dr. Kishore.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Go right ahead.
So, as you know, my name is Kishore Persaud. I'm a transplant and vascular surgeon in Guyana. And this afternoon, I'll be sharing with you what we can offer our Caribbean neighbors in terms of transplantation surgery and what we have done to help to alleviate our patients that suffer from kidney failure, chronic kidney disease who are on dialysis, and how transplant have improved their quality of life and what we offer them at the Georgetown Public Hospital in Guyana and some of the private institutions. As you know, the incidence of kidney failure in the US is approximately 15% of their adult. And as Hassina had told you, and by now you would know, Guyana and Trinidad is always in competition for something. If it's not cricket, it's chicken curry or something, doubles and roti. But we seem to be in competition also for the incidence in terms of kidney failure, chronic kidney disease among those two. And I think it's pretty much higher here in Guyana than Trinidad because of the high incidence of diabetes, high blood pressure, and also the abuse of over-the-counter medication that is available to the population at large. If our population is about 816,000, it means that in Guyana we have approximately 122,400 patients who have kidney failure. And if you look at the US data, they say that 9 in 10 adults with kidney disease don't even know they have it. And what that tells you is that some of you who are listening to me right now, you should get yourself tested because you probably will have kidney disease and you don't even know it. And look at the last line here. It says that 1 in 2 patients, and this is a patient who has stage 4 and 5 kidney failure, that actually has this latent stage of kidney failure, doesn't actually show any symptoms. So you might be very well listening to me and have kidney failure and you don't even have any sign of it. Dialysis is one of the major treatments for kidney failure. And you need to understand what's the effect of dialysis. Every patient, and some of you are here, you know it's time consuming, it's of a poor quality of life. You end up in the hospital frequently and you require blood transfusion. The patient on dialysis, as Hassina just showed you in Trinidad, they have a high morbidity and mortality. There's a wide dietary restriction. It's very expensive, and also because it poses an economical burden to the patient, their family, the healthcare system, and the country at large. It's depression at all levels, from the patient right up to the politicians. When you look at the US data, it costs $89,000 annually to dialyze one patient per year. And that consumes approximately $42 billion of the US healthcare budget. In our country, here in Guyana, it costs a patient for only dialysis, and this is when we were starting our program in 2014, $2 million just to do dialysis in the dialysis center in our country. And what happened? This leaves out costs for laboratory investigation, costs for medication, erythropoietin, blood transfusion, transportation, and all these dietary restrictions that they are on. When we started our program, we showed the Ministry of Health and the politician in charge what are the benefits and how transplant can help our people to attain a better quality of life and how cost effective the transplant surgery is in the long term and the benefit it gives to the patient. Dialysis in 5 years to dialyze 24 patients will cost our country $228 million Guyana dollars. The maintenance medication to just keep 24 patients alive, and these are productive patients that will go back to work, contribute to the economy of our country, will only cost us $1.8 million for their maintenance medication. So that by its whole nature shows that transplantation is the best treatment for chronic kidney disease. And I will show you in our next slides how our program has evolved from nothing to something, and what we are offering to the Guyanese population and the Caribbean at large. And you all are willing to access it at your choice. At the beginning of our program, after I completed my fellowship in Calgary and returned to Guyana, no one believed in a third world country that transplantation was possible. And that's because, if you remember 10 years ago, Guyana was on par with Haiti in terms of their economic burden. The access to resources, the access to drug, the access to technology was poor. I returned to this country as, if I want to say, a lone soul. And we had nothing like a tissue cross matching to even think about doing transplant in Guyana. And basically, no one thought that transplantation was possible. So usually you do what you do in a third world country. You get to GMO, which is a government medical officer, and you're actually basically told to battle your own ship onwards. But never forget that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. This picture here, as you can see, depicts a moment before we did the first transplant in Guyana. It was a moment I had only 2 GMO with me, and the whole country and everyone was looking at what the outcome. Basically, we were risking our career to start a program in Guyana, because if this had failed, transplant in Guyana would have failed. And I will show you the data to back that up. And if it succeeds, then it is what is it today in our country. Transplant has multiple benefits. One, there's no need for blood transfusion because the kidney makes erythropoietin. No need for dialysis. No need for, like I said, frequent hospital administration. There's very minimal diet restriction. And most of all, a patient on dialysis receiving a transplantation, they become a productive citizen. They go back to work. They take care of their family. They pay taxes. They contribute to the economy of a country. They contribute back to the healthcare and the development of a country. So that's why throughout the world, transplantation has been seen as the most productive treatment for the dreaded disease, kidney failure. And I must highlight at this point, dialysis by itself is the most expensive treatment medically. I think it's second to chemotherapy and the treatment of the cancer patient. Now at this stage, I want to tell you what our government has done in Guyana to help alleviate the burden of patients suffering from kidney disease and on dialysis. One, the government has started multiple dialysis centers in different regions of the country, and that's through a private-public partnership, and where they're funded partially by the government so that they can reduce the cost of dialysis. And this has helped patients throughout the country where they don't have to come to the city anymore to seek dialysis. They go to a public hospital that has a dialysis center, and they pay a minimum cost, a fair amount of money, 12,000 Guyana dollar, which is approximately 75 US per session. That has helped them to acquire dialysis, but it's approximately they receive 3,000 US per year. Also, what the government has done is provide all laboratory investigation for the dialysis patient seeking dialysis at these various centers free of cost. They also provide all the medication free of cost for these patients, and these patients moving towards transplantation, they fund the transplantation in the public hospital completely. They also sometimes fund the cross-matching test in the US completely, and most of the time they pay 50% of the cost, only that is. A patient going for transplant in Guyana only pays sometimes 50% of the cost for the cross match. Otherwise, they receive their transplant free of cost at the Georgetown Public Hospital, fully funded by the government of Guyana. This picture depicts the day we did our first kidney transplant in 2014, and it was a blessing to see it light up brilliantly, post-op, and peed on the table. What I'm showing you here is what happened and what spurred transplantation in Guyana. In 2008, this 17-year-old boy he was 14-year-old, who had kidney failure, and his parents were literally begging and asking for help because they could not afford dialysis. But what happened is that the George Sobrash Foundation, a charity organization, come together and they fund his transplant in Guyana. And they brought in specialists and the transplant was done. One of the setbacks to this is that it's like you're buying a BMW to give your son and he does not have a driver's license. They don't know to drive. What happened is that there were no programs set up in this country to monitor this patient post-op, monitor the drug level, and any system in place to provide for this patient socially, financially, and ensure that they have medication on a constant basis to take care of their kidney. And I'm talking about the immunosuppression. In 2014, when I returned to Guyana, we established a nephrology program, followed by the kidney transplant program, with the main objective that if we're going to start transplant, we must be able to monitor our patient closely, provide what is necessary for our patient, and be able to help them to achieve the desired outcome we want for them. The patient that was transplanted in 2008, because of the setback, he died 2 years after. I'm proud to announce to you that the patient we did in 2015, he's still alive and doing well today. Transplantation, like I tell you, started with just myself and 2 GMO. Today we have grown, and these are the people that actually make our program a success, and it's mainly attributed to their commitment, dedication, and hard work. We have 2 registrars along with myself. I have a dedicated pharmacist and multiple GMOs that join my department that helps with getting our patient prepared and ready for transplant. This is a team, not practice like what happened around the world. It practice similar to where I was trained in Calgary, where we take care of our patient from the beginning, soon they walk through the door, to post-op and throughout their life of transplantation of the kidney. These are some of our members also, Dr. George Budial and Dr. Eric Reverend, 2 of the registrar attached to the department, and my pharmacist along with the GMOs. And like I said, these are the people in Guyana that make things happen, and that's because of the work and their dedication towards our program. This slide depicts what happened before our program and what is currently happening. In 2008, from the first transplant, and this depicts transplant that was done both at the Georgetown Hospital and the private hospital. The morbidity is here. The morbidity is up before our program was 90%. Mortality, sorry. We have done almost twice, from 2015 to date, twice the amount of transplant that was done before our program. And our mortality remained, over the last 9 years, remain less than 14%. This, if we actually revise this graph, because of the patient that died with a functioning graft, that is with a transplant kidney, so they could have died from a heart attack or unexpected event. with a functioning kidney, but we add them here. And that to show how our program has stand out. And that's because of the monitoring put in place and the mechanism we have put to enhance the care of our transplant patient. This graph showed throughout the years how we have progressed in terms of the number of transplant. In 2015 and you see 2016, basically these were the year we had to prove ourselves. This was a playtime when people was watching and people wanted, we had to build confidence in the population to show that we could have done transplant in a third world country, poverty stricken with limited resource. And as we gain confidence, the numbers start to increase. And we use multiple media, such as the general media, social media, to promote our service and to gain the population confidence in us so that we can have people coming forward wanting to donate and wanting a transplant. As we gain confidence, we excel beyond what is expected to us. I don't know of any country in the Caribbean that did a peer exchange transplant, so I'm going to get into what is a peer exchange. And that is where you have someone wants to donate to you, but they cannot donate. And you have another peer who wants to, the donor cannot donate to them. So you basically swap the donor between the two patients. And we have successfully done 4 of this surgery in Guyana. They all are living a comfortable and a productive life. This was the first peer exchange done in Guyana. So if the population listen at large, if you have a donor and you cannot, you can seek with us and we will try to help you. As we gain confidence and we move forward, we embark on our first pediatrics transplant. The little girl you see here, she is 6 years old and weighed only 17 kilograms. If you look at most centers around the world, transplantation centers, most of them standard is where they do 20 kilograms and above. We took this on because of the confidence we gained and the training in terms of collaborative effort with the University of Calgary, where I trained. And we have successfully transplanted her. This is a picture of the father who donated kidney. Well, he donated to her. And because of her tiny body, one of the challenges was to secure that kidney within her body. One of the things about it is that to secure the kidney from flopping in the belly, we had to get a special type of mesh called vicryl mesh. However, it's very costly. And knowing Guyanese by itself, we like to invent. So what we created was something called a peritoneal flap, where we secure the kidney in the abdomen. And she's doing quite well with that. The kidney has not a one-day flip-flop. Now that has now gone to Calgary, and they start using our method. I hope they name it Kishore flopping method. This is a picture of, on the right where you see we create a flap cover, a peritoneal flap covering the kidney. And this is the kidney after we would transplant her. And as you could see, she's here now going to school, enjoying life and comfortable and happy with her family. This is a picture of our transplant team after we would have completed the first pediatric transplant at 17 kilograms in the Caribbean. We are a generous country and a generous people. And we are always friendly to our neighbors. And we were happy to accommodate Dr. Bristol and a few other patients from Grenada that we transplanted successfully in Guyana. Dr. Bristol is back in Grenada enjoying life working at a hospital, and she also promoting transplant in her country. We are happy that we have contributed to her success and improved her quality of life. This slide, as you see, it shows Guyana surgeons performed the first laparoscopic kidney transplant. If you look at this slide and a doctor, you probably laugh at it because you will say this has been done all the time. The reality is when we started our program, and why this was special to us, when we started our program, we were criticized by our own colleagues after a period of time that, oh, you guys are still doing open nephrectomy in this day and age, but I say I never regret the day, despite we were trained to do laparoscopic surgery, that we delayed the process, and that's because Guyana was at that time a third world country. We had limited resource. We had to do what is safe for the patient, what is right for us, what we think would have given us the best outcome for the patient. When the present government came into power, they provided a large sum of budget towards the healthcare system that boosts our surgical capacity in terms of providing the necessary equipment to start laparoscopic donor nephrectomy. And I'm happy to inform you that this is now the standard of care in terms of donating a kidney at the Georgetown Public Hospital in Guyana. And this was when we did our first laparoscopic donor nephrectomy. Recently, you would have heard in the news that the US, I can't recall what state, they said that they did the first awake transplant surgery. The reality is today we did it before them. And that's because we start to spread our wings as we gain confidence. We did the first awake transplant surgery in Guyana. As you can see here, this is a video of it. And recently, we have started to do right donor nephrectomy. And if you look at some centers in the US, Canada, and England, they don't do right donor nephrectomy, and that's because of the associated morbidity, mortality, and complication associated with it. However, we have started doing it, but one of the things with right donor nephrectomy, the vein is short and it prone the kidney to thrombosis. Well, our technique is that we start taking piece of the vena cava and to lengthen the vein. We have done 4 of this surgery this year, and they all are successful, have normal kidney function, and they are doing well in our country. I'm happy to inform you here that we reviewed and followed up all our donors, and we have 0 donor mortality. We have worked tirelessly to attain our transplant legislation. I'm not going to bore you with it too much, but again, we almost achieved it at the same time with our sister country, Trinidad and Tobago. And the legislation allows you a multiple way to expand your transplant program. And we achieve our legislation by doing multiple research. We actually worked on drafting our own legislation, consultation with international transplant lawyers. We had multiple meetings with the Minister of Health. We even went to our president to ask him his guidance and get his support. And we engaged with religious leaders. And via all this mechanism, and that's the team of doctors that I show you in front, that we work to achieve this. I'm happy to tell you that we are now one of the countries in the Caribbean and South America that has the tissue transplant legislation. We are not perfect. We still have challenge. We still need more staff to help us with the work and load that we have. If you will know that we're doing all of this that you see, I just present to you from a room in a dialysis center. We do not have a transplant department, and we do not have a tissue typing lab, for your information. Now, we're eagerly awaiting something called a deceased donor transplant, because 2 years now since we would have had our transplant legislation. And you're probably asking yourself why I have these gentlemen here and the deceased donor transplant. No, I don't want the kidney, and I'm not hoping to die, but I'm going to make this last statement here before closing my presentation. We can implement all the policies. We can implement all the protocol. But if you don't work on saving your human resources, treating them properly, keeping and preserving your human resource, you will achieve nothing. Your local people is what you have to look out for and preserve. These men are sitting there. They're not waiting on any food. They're not waiting on anything. I have finished a transplant and they're waiting to escort that patient from recovery room to the transplant unit. And we will wait until that patient stabilizes before we leave that unit and go home. It is people like this you need before a cadaveric transplantation can be implemented, where you have their dedication, their commitment, their hard work, and their willingness. And obviously, remuneration has to be there to retain our people so that we can move forward with deceased donor transplantation. I will close by saying, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. And if you can't walk, they'll crawl. But wherever you're doing, you have to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kishore. You got me a little scared there just now. I think we're going to have lots of questions coming later as soon as our next speaker is done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our final panelist, Dr. Chrysostom, and he is the medical consultant for the CARAIFA Foundation. Earlier in the program, you would have heard me mention Dr. Keniel Chrysostom. If he wishes, he'll tell you that story for the mix-up. But Dr. Chrysostom hails from the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, both St. Augustine and Mona campuses, where he obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry in 2008 and went on to attain a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery in 2013. He then completed his postgraduate studies in internal medicine in 2019, graduating with a Doctor of Medicine, where he went on to serve as a locum specialist for 6 months on the island of Montserrat from January to July 2020. His area of interest within internal medicine is the study of kidney diseases and completed a clinical fellowship in nephrology at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. He is the published author of a tract entitled Prevalence of Chronic Kidney Disease and Associated Risk Factors on the Island of Montserrat. In the Journal of Nephrology, Dialysis, and Transplantation, he holds international and regional memberships in the American Society of Nephrology, Internal Society of Nephrology, European Renal Association, as well as the Caribbean Institute of Nephrology, and is currently pursuing an additional fellowship in transplant nephrology at the University of Toronto. His other interests includes playing the steel pan and piano, exercise and fitness, as well as socializing and enjoying light-hearted moments with families and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Keniel Chrysostom, and he will be sharing on kidney disease, its challenges and management in Jamaica, and he'll also share some statistics of Barbados and some of the other Caribbean countries which weren't mentioned before. Welcome, Dr. Chrysostom.
Thank you. Thank you, Dion, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for that introduction. So I must say that the speakers that went before definitely touched on some critical aspects that I too would like to discuss, but I would give my spin on it, and we'll see, how we can solve this ongoing challenge that seems to face our Caribbean. So the key points I would address that there's a high prevalence of the main causes of kidney disease in the English-speaking Caribbean. Many Caribbean countries report higher than average rates of chronic kidney disease, and we'll go into a brief overview of the challenges that impact the quality of life and the healthcare burden. So, Causes of kidney disease. The main causes, I mean, this is by no means is an extensive dissertation on the topic, but just to whet your appetite, the main causes, diabetes, hypertension. Diabetes is the most frequent cause of kidney disease in North America and Europe, and dare I say worldwide. And in Jamaica, hypertension is the most common cause of kidney disease, end-stage kidney disease, followed by diabetes. And in some Caribbean territories, the order is reversed. So this picture that illustrates the diabetic prevalence in the Caribbean. As you can see, the worldwide prevalence is about 13.7%, and this is where we line up in terms of the worldwide prevalence. So we see Trinidad 12%, Jamaica just about 12%, Barbados 17.6%. This is based on international data from the Diabetes Federation, and we have Guyana 11.3%. So everyone pretty much around 13.7%. Apart from Barbados, which seems to be a little ahead, and the Curacao. And now, what is concerning about this data is that we know that a lot of these countries, they don't really have a registry, as a previous presenter mentioned. They don't really have a registry to record all of these cases. So this is in fact an estimation of the prevalence, which means there are a lot of people that are probably walking around undiagnosed, which means that this is an underestimation of the actual prevalence, which is quite alarming. And here we see, this is an idea of how many undetected diabetes patients there are. This was data obtained just based on random screening and persons realizing that they actually were in fact diabetic. Now, the underlying cause of chronic kidney disease in the Caribbean, like we said, diabetes and hypertension top the list, but there are definitely other causes. We have glomerulonephritis, in particular lupus nephritis among women. We have urological diseases. We have polycystic kidney disease, cardiovascular disease. What has been becoming a problem in the Caribbean is the growing problem of obesity, because obesity contributes to the metabolic syndrome, and the metabolic syndrome predisposes persons to diabetes, hypertension, or insulin resistance, which in fact is a known cause of CKD or chronic kidney disease progression in our population. So all of those, in addition, we have sickle cell disease in our population in Jamaica as well. Those things are main underlying causes in the Caribbean. Now, just for some context, this is using data obtained from the Jamaica Health and Lifestyle Survey, which was a very comprehensive study conducted by a number of researchers to get just an overall picture of what was happening in Jamaica in terms of not just chronic non-communicable diseases, but in terms of the communicable diseases as well. Now, I just took a bit out of it to show you the context of what the problem is and what we're dealing with. Now, the prevalence of diabetes in Jamaica was 11.9%, right? It was higher among women than men. Now, the prevalence estimates for diabetes awareness out of all the cases, as well as treatment and control, were 57.9%, 92%, and 27% respectively, which means that 57, just over half of the persons were aware. 92% were being treated, but out of the persons that were treated, just 27% or 27.5% had their diabetes under control. So the overall figure would show that only 14.7% of all persons with diabetes were adequately controlled. Now that is massive. Now, as it pertains to hypertension, a similar figure was seen where the prevalence of hypertension was 57.6%, and it was mainly discovered in the middle to elderly population, middle-aged elderly. And a similar prevalence estimate was done, and this one showed that only 12.8, just about 13%. So almost 1 in 10 persons with hypertension were adequately controlled. And here we see those two determinants of kidney disease in the Caribbean. We only have just about 1 in 10 persons having adequate control on their medication. Now, let's look at the age of chronic kidney disease patients and the diagnosis by gender. Now, as we can see, it affects mainly, it begins to affect the working class. So the blue representing males and the purple females. 36 to 45, just about 10%. 46 to 55, a large prevalence of men. And around 56 to 65, when it is time to wind down and start enjoying your retirement, that is when you have to spend your money on your health and on dialysis and all of these expensive interventions that were mentioned before. So your quality of life definitely takes a hit when you have chronic kidney disease. Now, this slide is particularly telling. Now, CKD staging. Now, if you would look, the area that is highlighted in red is stage 5 kidney disease. Now, it was mentioned before that we have 5 stages of chronic kidney disease, and after stage 5 is when persons go on renal replacement therapy, and that is either dialysis or transplant. Now, this represents the amount of persons that are diagnosed as stage 5. Every single stage or every single age bracket, the majority of patients discover that they have kidney disease when they are at stage 5 or close to end stage or stage 4. So that alone would suggest to us that we are not screening enough for chronic kidney disease, because all of these cases are picked up rather late. If we look at the data, every single age bracket from 35 goes straight to 85. Most of the cases picked up at stage 4 and stage 5. So the challenges that are facing chronic kidney disease patients in the Caribbean. Now, the scope of the problem, the prevalence in the English-speaking Caribbean is quite high, driven by the rising burden of the non-communicable diseases like we had mentioned before, mainly diabetes, hypertension, and obesity as well. And we also have a number of socioeconomic factors, healthcare disparities, and limited access to renal replacement therapy in the form of dialysis and transplant. So these actually exacerbate the prevalence and the poor outcomes in the region. So another problem we have, as I mentioned before, is the early detection and intervention, which could significantly improve outcomes and reduce long-term costs, is not being done, and it is not being afforded to the high-risk population. So in addition to all of that, dialysis, transplant, and associated chronic kidney disease treatments, these impose a substantial financial burden on patients, their families, and the healthcare system, as we all know, with limited insurance coverage in some cases, and it often leaves gaps, as was mentioned before, where persons would have to pay out of pocket for their treatments or to have the optimal standard of care. So the scope of management really is to encourage collaboration between insurers, healthcare providers and governments to create an integrated chronic kidney disease management and prevention program. As a Caribbean, we really need to tackle this problem more as a team approach rather than an individualized approach, because clearly there are some obstacles that each of us face. And if we team up to tackle the problem, we would probably get further than where we are individually at this point. Additionally, insurance providers, it could offer incentives for preventative care and regular screenings for high-risk groups, as well as comprehensive coverage for chronic kidney disease related treatments. I would also lobby for partnerships with the non-governmental organizations to address gaps in healthcare access and support policies for regional data sharing. It was mentioned a couple times that a lot of countries do not collect data, and we are medical practitioners that practice evidence-based medicine. So the implementation of policies is very difficult when you don't have hard evidence to put forward as to the scope of the problem and how to manage it. So we definitely need to have a drive to collect data, reestablish the Caribbean Renal Registry, and just invest time and energy into, replenishing the data and having the scope of the problem actualized in a more comprehensive manner. And that's where we could have standardized management guidelines to help improve outcomes for patients across the Caribbean. So essentially, we need a comprehensive collaborative approach to effectively manage and prevent kidney disease in the Caribbean. So this would in fact improve patient outcomes. It could reduce healthcare costs because we would detect cases earlier, and the earlier we treat the disease, the more cost effective we would be in slowing down progression in the long term. So that's just a teaser as to the scope of the problem and its management. I now hand it over to you, Dion.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Aralon. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we had some very detailed and comprehensive presentations from our doctors, Dr. O'Shea, Dr. Hassina, Dr. Kishore, and Dr. Aralon. And I'm sure that you have your questions ready. You can ask questions in an orderly manner by raising your hands, or you can place your questions in the chat. And while you prepare to do so, I just want to, to encourage you to donate to the CARAIFA Foundation. You can make your pledges this evening so that we can continue to help persons that are in need. A big thing coming up by Dr. Kishore is the transplantations, so that persons can get that type of help or some other help, some other necessities. The dialysis in some countries, dialysis is free. In other countries, you have to pay for the entire dialysis or parts of it, the third and fourth session. And we have persons needing dialysis up to 15 sessions per month. That is indeed a lot. And we have Guyana and Trinidad there in competition. We want to help some of these people. And by you donating to the CARAIFA Foundation, you join a network of compassionate supporters, making a tangible impact on lives in need. So to make those contributions, you can place it in the chat, place your pledge in the chat, or you can send an email to the CARAIFA Secretariat. So let's see who have questions. Let me look in the chat. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat as yet. But it has been some very interesting conversations there. And to me, it seems like some of us are taking our kidneys for granted when we hear things like you're not getting the regular screening. Sometimes most of the time it's picked up at stage 4 or late stage 4 and stage 5. That's a long time. And I think it was Dr. Kishore mentioned, sometimes we are buying the over-the-counter medication, and that is lending to kidney failure. I mean, some of this is so scary. So I think we need to get some more information from you. Dr. Persaud, are your donors mainly family members?
No, our donors are non-related, related and non-related donors we take.
Okay, great. Thanks for that answer. That was by Alan Haynes. We have a question here from David Saw. What percentage of patients was raised ACR Fontanuria are on SGLT2? I hope you understood my pronunciation of that word.
Was that question directed to anyone in particular?
No, but any of you can answer the question. Did not go to anyone in particular. Who wants to take that question?
Okay. Well, I could tackle the question. I think the question, for those who didn't understand, is what percentage of patients with proteinuria, which as we know is the earliest sign of chronic kidney disease or its progression, what percentage of those patients are on optimal medical therapy, one of which would be SGLT2 inhibitor, which is pretty, well, fairly new on the market in terms of the Caribbean landscape, but it has been around for a while, and it has been shown in different studies to be beneficial in reducing hospitalizations, reducing kidney disease progression. And the main obstacle, as I had alluded to in my presentation, the main obstacle to optimal care is it has a lot to do with socio-economic issues. So these medications aren't always covered by the government subsidy or by insurance. So a lot of it is paid out of pocket, and they are quite expensive. So the percentage of patients that are on it has a lot to do with who could really afford that standard of care, because they don't have the generic formulations of those drugs just yet, simply because they're fairly new. So you would see them advertising on cable television, and they're usually branded, and we don't have a cheaper alternative. So a lot of persons that we would like to put on those medications, they are not in an economic position to afford them. So that would be the main obstacle to optimal care in that respect.
Thank you so very much for answering that, Dr. Arolon. All right, we have another question. I'll give this to Dr. O'Shea. If high blood pressure and diabetes are a major cause, why are we not doing regular screening on these persons? If high blood pressure and diabetes are the major cause, why are we not doing regular screening on these persons?
That's a good question. I think a lot of that comes down to awareness, and people with these problems, if they know they have them, are they seeing a doctor regularly? I do know that in Barbados, there is a big push by our nephrologists to go into the polyclinics and do early screening, and to, sensitize the general practitioners of the need to check the urine and to check the kidney function for all these patients. But as was pointed out with the population size, I mean, a low estimate of 20% having diabetes, as high as 50% in the over 50 having diabetes. You really have to keep reinforcing the need to do the urine and the blood tests. And these patients come to the clinic if they're coming to the clinic. So there's awareness that has to be done amongst the population to ask for the test if if it's not being done, and then to also remind our general practitioners that they need for it to be done. I know that there are some foundations, like the Fordham Foundation, who do these tests free of charge. So it's just a question of constantly reminding people who are diagnosed that they need to have this test done. But you know, you have to keep talking. Same problems with obesity, keep reminding people about healthy lifestyle, you know, why are people not eating better? So I mean, these questions, these whys, you know, we keep asking, why do we have this high obesity when we know it's bad for us? So it's hard. It's hard to keep doing those checks for all kinds of things, breast cancer awareness, colon cancer awareness. So that why we need a lot of answers is still why maybe sometimes people don't want to hear the answer. So but we have to keep reinforcing and pushing to get these numbers, as pointed out. It's so important.
Okay.
And then why is it when it reaches that we're now, because it's not being done early enough, and it's only when people feel bad they start to get swollen, they feel tired, and they come to the emergency room, and we're now finding out their creatinines are 1,000. And this is unfortunately how we meet a lot of these patients. People are walking around and they feel fine, they're not getting checked, and then they turn up and it's late. And this is the case for many things in the community.
Yeah.
But we have to keep reinforcing and these type of meetings that we have here, and we heard some of the Dr. Persaud really reinforcing. We might be sitting here and we don't even know, so go and get checked. And I hope this resonates, and we, you know, one person tells another person, and we keep doing it, and we'll get more and more people getting checked.
Okay, yes. Awesome. Thanks for that reinforcement. I was told there are some persons in the audience that have problems on muting. I think you're able to do that now, so you can raise your hands to ask your question. Dr. Hassina, what would you say are the most significant advancements in kidney transplant procedures or post-operative care that have improved patients' outcomes in recent years?
Oh, you have to say that slower.
Oh, sorry. What would you say
Yes.
are the most significant advancements in kidney transplant procedures or post-operative care that have improved patient outcomes in recent years?
Well, I'm going to throw it out to the surgeons afterwards, but in my opinion, so transplants was one of those major things that happened in the last century. And since then, it has really come in leaps and bounds in terms of what has been developed. There are new techniques, there are new medication every day. But to me, I think the best thing that ever happened to transplant was the immunosuppressants. And those were the miracle drugs that prevented, because a lot of the transplants would happen between unrelated persons. Or even related persons, you're not an exact match unless you're a twin. So what would happen is that you have a chance of rejecting the organ. So you get a kidney works, then it stops working, or you get a kidney, the body immediately attacks it. And the immunosuppressants are the things that, with that medication, it prevented the body from attacking this foreign object. And I think that was one of the most significant things, in my opinion, that happened in kidney transplant in the recent times. Of course, there's surgical techniques. We've moved away from completely open procedures where you had large scars to now very minimally invasive incisions. Then now for deceased donation, you have machines where you can keep the kidney for a few hours, possibly just to kind of look at it, optimize it, extend the life, transfer it to like far off countries. So there are a lot of different things, and I think those are the ones that are jumping out at me. I don't know if Dr. O'Shea, Dr. Persaud, could think of anything else that was super fabulous about kidney transplant.
I think you highlight most of them.
Okay, awesome. You handled that well, Dr. Hassina. Okay, Dr. Kishore, you mentioned a whole lot about kidney transplants and so on. Even mentioned that is the best treatment for chronic kidney failure. That was definitely news to me. We don't hear too much of the transplant, so I really appreciate the awareness for that. Can you tell us what is the typical recovery process for kidney transplant recipients and the types of support they may need from both medical teams and family members?
Thanks for your question. So when it comes to the donor, the depends on what surgery they have. If it's an open surgery, they usually spend approximately 5 to 6 days in the hospital. And basically that's because there's a cut and you most of the time is pain management and help them to ambulate as early as possible. Now with the advent of laparoscopic surgery, they're able to ambulate. The very minimal incision, pain-free, require less pain medication, and they go home by day 2, day 3, they can go home. So the post-operative care for your donor are very effective in terms with the modernized approach to surgical care with the availability of all this medication and technology that is now available for us.
Okay, thanks for answering that. All right, Dr. Aralon, what would you say, what stage is associated with a irreversible failure of both kidneys, which would necessitate dialysis or kidney transplantation?
Good question. The distinction between chronic kidney disease and acute kidney injury is important when addressing the issue of reversibility, because acute kidney injury is if you get, as the name implies, an acute insult to the kidney. So you end up hospitalized with, like, let's say a bad infection, a bad pneumonia. So you go into shock, or you have heart failure and your kidneys don't get a good blood supply. You may have some acute damage to the kidneys, which is capable of having at least 75% to almost full recovery, depending on the circumstances of every case. Now, chronic kidney disease is a slow progression that occurs as you age. So even as you age, the calculation for how well your kidney works, age is a number one factor. So somebody that is 70 years old with a creatinine of 100, as opposed to somebody who's 20 years old with a creatinine of 100, when you plug in that calculation, the 20-year-old has a way better kidney function than the 70-year-old, just on the basis of being younger, right? So chronic kidney disease is a slow progression, and it progresses through the stages, and you may have acute insults along the way that may speed up or precipitate further damage. So it isn't a particular stage where it becomes irreversible. It is a slow progression. It's like you're journeying along a highway and you're heading in a direction and you can't turn back. So what you can do is you could mash brakes. So you don't have to reach that destination as quickly as, if you were to do the right things to prevent progression.
I love that analogy. Simple, so that all of us can understand. Thanks for that. All right, I'm not going to ask this next question. It's a very interesting question. I'm not going to, any of you can answer. I don't know if it will be a competition between Guyana and Trinidad for this one, but Joanna Reese is asking, which Caribbean country provide the best dialysis or kidney transplantation? Who's going to tackle that one for us tonight? Is it Trinidad? Is it Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica? Where? Whatever is it?
I would like to start. I would like to start by saying I hope that in the near future we wouldn't even have to ask that question because we would be a unified Caribbean and there wouldn't be any identifiable country
Awesome.
that
Awesome.
is better than the other one. We would all be one unit working for the common goal. That's what I hope.
Well,
Yes,
I was
awesome.
about to
I want to
say
add to that.
that same thing because that's the whole idea that we had behind the Caribbean Donation and Transplant Society. We are a Caribbean. I think each individual island is too small to not need help. So our program has been around for 16 years, but we still need help. You know, we're not quite there. We not reached first world standard. There are a lot of different islands who are starting up their program, and help is needed. So if St. Kitts and Nevis wants to start theirs, they have help from Trinidad, they have help from Guyana, they have help from Barbados, they have help from Jamaica, because we have programs and we've done it before. And I think, so it's not a matter of which one is better, it's one that best suits your country. But I think at the end, it really is that we must come together as one. I think
Thank
when
you.
it comes together as one, then I think that's going to be the best thing. Because if I have excess organs that I can't use in my country, it will hurt me to have to throw it away. You know, but if somebody else needs it, somebody in Barbados needs it, somebody in Guyana needs it, I can say, okay, y'all can have it because I don't need it. So it's not wasted. And that's the whole idea behind a nice sharing network. So hopefully the Donation Society does that and brings us together. And in addition to the Donation Society, this is where the Commonwealth Tribute to Life comes into play, because we should establish an MOU through that organization so that we can have similar backgrounds and everybody on the same page. And I think that's where we should be heading to.
Okay, awesome. And follow up to that, Jesse Sears is asking, when will they start in St. Lucia? Does anybody have a answer for that? St. Lucia?
Well, I know Dr. Greenidge, I mean, I don't know when, but there's definitely interest. And I think once there's interest, you know, it will happen eventually. So we just have to keep supporting each other. And as Hassina said, get our programs fully robust and independent or of outside help. And then we can start expanding to the other regions. So once we get there, as she said, none of us are there yet, fully. Once we get there, then we can start incorporating other regions, if not even to do in their jurisdiction, maybe to do in a hub of sorts. But I think there's certainly a lot of passion and the keenness and collaboration and community within us, so we'll get there.
Okay, thank you for that,
And
Dr.
Dr. Kishore gave the last slide, which is fantastic. Even if you have to crawl, we'll keep moving forward.
Yes, definitely. You know, he also said life is 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we react to it. All right, Alan Haynes, the president of the Kidney Association in Barbados, is saying Forlam does free kidney testing. And at February of this year, they had completed 2,600 tests. You just need to go on their website and make a booking. All right. Dr. Kishore, how does the availability of living versus deceased donors impact the success rate of kidney transplant within the Caribbean region?
So that was answered by Trinidad, because we only do currently living donor transplant. We have not started our cadaveric transplant. So actually looking at that comparison for us is not there. I can tell you from another country, but because the question is for Caribbean, I think Dr. Hassina Mohammed could help us with what the comparison between the two.
Okay.
Is there anything?
Yes. All
All
right.
right. So living is better than deceased. Living will always function better than deceased, and that's because it's a fresh kidney. Usually it's a healthy donor. It gets taken out in one operating theater, it's transplanted in the next operating theater almost immediately. There's a very short period on ice. And all these little factors, the time for transplant, the amount of time it's on ice, if the person comes with medical issues before, and a lot of those things can actually cause the graft to not function as properly or have a delay in function. So deceased donors, they tend to be depending. So like for Trinidad, you saw our demographics. We tend to have young persons with no medical problems coming in from blunt force trauma or gunshot wounds. But you know, as we have such advances in medical management, now there are a lot older people who are becoming the deceased donors, and they tend to come with age, they tend to come with medical problems, diabetes, high blood pressure, some of them heart problems. So you don't know. So the kidneys don't come to you the best, but it's still better than being on dialysis. So living better than deceased, deceased better than dialysis. That's just the order it's usually in.
Wow, very interesting information there. All right, we're gonna have two more questions. I'm not able to see the persons within our audience. I hope there's no one that have your hands raised and we did not acknowledge you. In a minute, I'll give our panelists 30 seconds to give your final statements. And we also had the Tribute to Life program that Dr. O'Shea mentioned. Does anybody have any questions as it relates to that? All right. Okay, have a question here. What role can regional partnerships and policies play in improving organ donation awareness and increasing kidney transplant rates within the Caribbean? What role can regional partnerships and policies play in improving organ donation awareness and increasing kidney transplant rates in the Caribbean? That was not directed to anyone in particular. Who would like to answer this for us?
I would say that.
No, you go ahead, you go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that culturally, there is a bit of an aversion to organ donation. It's not something that we have grown up hearing about. It is a novel or a new concept to us. So there would be persons that there's a particular taboo associated with organ donation, or I don't want nobody taking out my organs from my body kind of thing. And it really just needs the right educational approach in bringing awareness and bringing bringing awareness to the benefits of organ donation and the improvement in terms of quality of life. And we also need to show them data from places that have done it and continue to do it and have a robust system, how much it positively impacts their population. So I think that if we were to have an approach, because obviously if we are going into a drive to medical education and public education, it would require funding and it would require resources, not just word of mouth, but you know, it would definitely require some form of infrastructure to get the word out in a controlled and a systematic way to achieve the right objectives. So I would say there is definitely a role for organizations. We need to first, as a society or as an organization, come up with a plan and then propose a budget for that plan and how we are going to achieve the goal of raising awareness and destigmatizing the whole issue of, you know, organ donation and transplant.
Well said, Dr. Ireland. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any more questions at this point in time. So I am going to give our panelists 30 seconds to say your final statements. And we'll start with Dr. Margaret O'Shea. Go right ahead.
Okay, just wanted to say thanks, and I think more sessions of like these will help spread the word. Interestingly, a lot of the governments have signed on to the whole idea of organ donation and transplantation, but we need to get it filtered down to the common man, the man on the street. And so this can only help. This can only happen the more we talk about it. So I think that's what we need to continue to do, to have this conversation about the importance, because the disease, the end stage renal disease, that stage 5 is just going up and up and up. So, and we just have to try to decrease it, yes, but at the same time, treat it in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret O'Shea. All right. Dr. Hassina, 30 seconds to say your final statements.
Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. My final statement is, you know, I always advocate that prevention is better than cure. If you can save your kidneys, check your kidneys, it's always better than having to, for us to have to try to fix it afterwards. There was one person speaking about high blood pressure and diabetes and asking why it's not checked, why do we pick it up late? But it also comes down to patient being proactive. Patients have to be proactive. If you know you have a risk factor, find out what the risk factors are. If you have a risk factor, it's your responsibility to get checked. I always tell my patients that it's their responsibility. I can't manage a population of 5,000 persons and pick it up in everybody. So I think patients need to be very proactive in their own health and not really rely on the healthcare professional. But like I said, prevention is always better than cure. So if you don't have to have dialysis and you don't have to have a transplant, I think that's better than anything else.
I absolutely agree with that, Dr. Hassina. Prevention is better than cure. Yes, definitely. All right, we'll have our final words from Dr. Kishore.
I support the call for a unified Caribbean transplant program. I think we should all put heads together and strongly push towards us developing transplantation as a one factor for the Caribbean, where we could start cadaveric transplant in multiple countries and where we can share those organs together. This will help us to alleviate most of the burden of patients waiting for transplantation. So I support my colleague in calling, and for those who in authority, for the politicians responsible for making this forward so that we can put heads together and get it moving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kishore. Yes, one Caribbean people fighting for a cause. Dr. Ireland, your final words.
Once again, thank you for having me. Thank you, CARAIFA, for raising awareness and having this meeting. I think that we need to have more screening infrastructure in place so that we could pick up these cases of chronic kidney disease early in the clinical course, because early detection would save us a lot of money down the road, both for the patient as well as the healthcare system, as well as the government organizations. But inevitably, as people live longer and life expectancy increases, we will need viable options for renal replacement. Transplant offers the best quality of life and is the best trade-off in terms of renal replacement therapy. And hopefully in years to come, we can work together as a Caribbean to achieve a unified goal where we offer first class or first world service to our population and have them enjoy a better quality of life.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Ireland. Thanks to all of our wonderful panelists tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, can you show us those emojis, so show some appreciation for our panelists tonight. Indeed, it was a pleasure having all four of you, Dr. Kishore, Dr. Margaret, Dr. Hassina, Dr. Aralon, coming here on this day of common concern and helping us to raise the awareness. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate you, Dr. Hassina. You can go enjoy the rest of your holiday. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard some challenges that persons are facing tonight, that, you know, with kidney failure, kidney disease, and you have heard how you're able to manage it. Prevention is better than cure, but for those already ailing, you know, you want to, there were some suggestions, the transplant. We've gotten some vital information on that. For those who weren't even thinking about it, we have that information. And I think, you know, eating healthy is one of those ways that we can definitely help our kidneys, stop buying some of the over-the-counter. And I know there are some persons that I know every time they feel a little pain, they're going to buy 2 Panadol multi-symptoms or something like that. And I believe that we are hurting our kidneys by doing such things. So eat healthy. Doctors, I believe that there are some persons that may want to connect with you, that may have some more questions as they go on, that probably weren't able to ask. I'm seeing a few questions come in, but our time has run out. But if you can probably place your email address in the chat, I think some persons will be able to reach out to you to get some answers if you can oblige to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to encourage you to give into the CARAIFA Foundation to help us help some persons that are ailing with kidney diseases. If there are any of you that wish to make a pledge, you can do so. You can place it in the chat, or you can reach out to us at secretariat@caraifa.com. SECRIAT at CARAIFA, CARAIFA.com, or you can email CARAIFA Foundation chair@gmail.com. We want to encourage you to help us, to help others, help us make a difference in lives. Tonight, before we leave, Alan Haynes, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes, I want to thank you so very much. You were very instrumental in helping us to have this panel discussion tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, show some appreciation for Alan Haynes. He's the president of the Barbados Kidney Association. Yeah, so thank you so very much. Thank you, panelists. Thanks to our President Hugh, president of CARAIFA. It was really wonderful where we could hear from Kevon in his absence, Louis sharing his testimony, and Joanne Archie. We also thank those from Dominica that show some appreciation for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much.
Just before you go, this is not a question. I just want to make something for observation for us to think about, right? I mean, this was a wonderful session, very informative, but I don't think that we have reached, when I look through, I don't see, from a Barbados perspective, many dialysis patients here. I know I sent out invitations for almost over 600 persons, right? And so that's how do we get the dialysis community and their relatives more involved in sessions like these? That's for us to consider. That's not the answer. That's just for us to think about. Okay.
Yes, we will definitely think about that, and I will connect with you some more so that we can brainstorm and come up with some ideas on how we can do that. Within Barbados, we have Dr. O'Shea here in Barbados to help us do that as well. And of course, we can reach out. Dr. Hassina, you would have mentioned that you're coming to Barbados this next year. You want to tell the audience a bit about it?
Oh, no, that's not set in stone. I have to convince Dr. O'Shea first.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I have to convince her first. So when I do that, then we're gonna come across.
Okay,
We'll
no
work on that,
problem.
Dr. O'Shea. We'll work on that.
Thank you.
All right. And also I want to thank Michael Salome, Madam Jen at the Secretariat, our PR, Denton Atkins, all of you who helped, the team at the Secretariat as well, all of you who helped pulling off this panel discussion, and we could not have done it without our panelists. One more time, give your thumbs up, give your claps, give your hearts. Michael, can you turn off the pin screen so that I can see who's still left here? Ladies and gentlemen, panelists, thank you so very much for being here. Have a wonderful night, and I look forward to seeing you, all of you again next year on October 31st for the Day of Common Concern. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Bye.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night. Great having you guys.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael, so much. You can end the Zoom when you're ready.